G'day and welcome to episode 7 of the It's Not About That podcast. Today I'm chatting with the fabulous Raynuha Sinnathamby, CEO of Springfield City Group. In this episode, we talk about the perils of corporate leadership and having to have those hard conversations with colleagues, not to mention family. We also discuss keeping fit and staying honest. It's a great chat. I think you're going to get heaps out of this one, so let's dive right in. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which this podcast was recorded, the Yuggera, Yugara and Yuggera people, and pay my respects to elders past and present. So today I'm very excited to have with me the fabulous Raynuha Sinnathamby. Now, I met you back, I think I was trying to rack my brain around 2008, 2009, give or take. And so it's almost 16, 17 years now, which is super exciting.
That is a long time.
And you are now the CEO of Springfield City Group.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you, Aaron. It's absolutely wonderful to be here today and share a bit about what's happened over that period of time.
Yes, I've totally stitched you up by saying, hey, Raynuha, do me a favour and come be on my podcast. So I'm very grateful for your time and very appreciate you fitting me in your office and your schedule for today. So thank you very much. Now, one of the things that I loved about you right at the start is you've always been so kind and gentle and generous, and you always made time to chat with me and talk and ask me genuinely interesting things about my life and things. And I've always admired that, given that, you were and are like a prominent business person, you're a busy schedule. We were meeting on jobs where, we had politicians and prime ministers and dignitaries and corporate people, but you still always found time to come and say hello. What kind of gave you that nature? Like, why are you such a nice person?
It's a funny question, but I think when we found you, one of the things I was looking for is a local that could help us do photography. And I love photos. I love capturing the history of what's happening here. It's pretty unique. And to be able to tell the story by pictures, I think is really important. And I guess when we found you, we didn't know where it would lead. We just found you and we thought that was really great. And as much as you've captured some of that history and our journey, we've loved hearing about your own journey here at Springfield. We've been part of your family growing up here from the time you got married and then had children and all the challenges of pandemics and everything. We've been through it together, right?
Yeah.
So as much as we've seen you grow, and we've enjoyed that journey because you're part of our community and it helps us tell our story by telling the stories of many, many people that are in our community. So I think it's just a genuine interest in what people are experiencing in our community and to hear from them and hear those real stories, I think is really precious.
Well, I've thoroughly always enjoyed it. And, some of our conversations over the years have been photography related, triathlete related, given that you are a superstar triathlete, and just all those beautiful moments. And I just want to thank you, first of all, because I think it's a beautiful trait that you have. Now, you're the CEO here now. What was your very first role here?
Yeah, so when I joined, there was about 11 people here, and my title was Director Corporate. And you can have whatever title that you like. The fact is there was only 11 people to do everything, and whatever job that you put your hand up for or didn't, you got the job because there was no one else to do it. So I guess in some respects, because I came from a legal background, my original role was a lot of the legal work that the company was doing. And then sort of a head of the finance department at the time encouraged me to get into some of the corporate finance decision making, almost to help him out, and I learned a lot on that journey.
Okay.
There was no one to do marketing, so I started doing marketing as well. That's probably where I met you, Aaron, along the journey. And then you just did everything that there was to do, because there wasn't, even though that was my title, Director Corporate, I rolled out the IT systems with my sister Uma. I came to the organisation and we didn't have a computer at every desk. And I thought that was a bit odd. And I said, I had a computer, I think, and I said to the IT guy, who was just, one of the guys in accounts, I said, do you think we could get email on the computers, because that would be pretty, game-changing? And he said, yeah, I put it on the systems, but then I took it off because no one was using it. I said, oh, my God, am I supposed to be a digital city?
Yeah.
So, we went through all of those journeys because it was a pretty lean operation and you just had to get things done.
Was that before or after you guys kind of were offering the computers in every household to the residents? Was that?
It was around the same time. Can you believe
we didn't have email. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Was it like pigeons or what were you doing?
Fax machines. We had a fax machine.
Apparently they still exist. I think there's one industry that still uses it, medical or something.
Medical health, yeah.
Once they figure it out, get your shares out of fax machines.
Exactly.
Now, so looking back at that time, what has been the favourite hat you've worn here?
That's a really hard one. I don't know. I don't know what the favourite one is. I guess I always lean towards law because that's my training. I actually enjoy it a lot. And when we've done some of the big transactions and I've been involved at the coalface, I think that's been pretty exciting, part of some of the things that we've done along the way. So I've enjoyed it. That's what I would say. There's been those moments when you're doing the legal part of your role, that's pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah. Well, run me through your love of the law and what led you to study law and become a lawyer.
Yeah, I guess I've always had it as part of my nature to be very fair to people, to also give people a fair hearing, I would say, and not to necessarily judge people. I think that's probably been part of my nature. So that probably led me on the path to study law. And then when after I did law, I think, again, probably part of my nature is property because my father's always been involved in property. And as kids, we would go to see his construction sites and things like that. So after I studied law, I went into property law and I practiced as a property lawyer. So those two things got knitted together nicely by those two, I guess, passions that I have. And then when I came to Springfield City Group, in essence, I left my legal career behind. But because I had those skills, I also brought some of those skills here and used those skills to help the company in whatever way that I could.
Okay. So do you think maybe did your having to negotiate your siblings in your childhood help you become the very diplomatic lawyer?
No, I don't think that helped at all. I think I was totally overrun by them. No, I guess it's hard. It's I don't know. I think you've either got it in you or there's something that you enjoy or you look for in life, a bit of justice.
Yep.
I think that's probably where I was motivated.
Very good. Was there any, what would you have done if you hadn't studied law?
Been an architect.
Architect. So just one fabulous thing to another.
Well, again, it's something I had an interest in when I was younger. Creativity, drawing, things like that. And so that's probably an area I would have explored. Have
you ever kind of pursued that as a hobby, like your drawing and love of art?
No, not really, no.
I could maybe for Christmas I'll buy you one of those adult colouring books maybe.
Magna Doodle or something like that.
Now, with that leaving law, was that a big decision to come join the family business? Like how hard was that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say I loved the law and I loved what I was doing and I think I was, getting some runs on the board. I was very early in my career, to be very honest. And then my dad had kept asking me, can you join? And I didn't really know if he was that serious or not. But then there'd probably come a point where he was pretty serious, and so I thought I'll come and try it. And he said, try it for a year and see how you go. And we did some pretty amazing things that particular year, and I thought, well, this is pretty good. And I think I got experiences here that it would have taken me a long time to have those experiences elsewhere. So that probably made me stay and, enjoy the ride.
So what were your reservations around coming to, essentially work for your dad and work in your dad's building and office, and, what were you worried about?
I don't think I was worried about that part of it. To be honest, I don't recall fretting about that part of it. I was more worried about leaving the law because I thought I was enjoying it, for one, and I felt like I had just started to get some runs on the board. Obviously, when you come out as a student, you're pretty useless, to be honest. You are, and you've got to learn a lot to become useful. And I was probably turning that corner where I was feeling a bit more useful.
Yeah.
And, then I was going to close that door almost and do something else. Yeah.
The friends and colleagues and peer group that you had then, have you stayed in contact, and how have their journeys gone in the law, or have they all bailed and found happier spaces?
Well, yeah, it's a really interesting question because after I finished studying, it was really hard to get a job in law. It just was really, there wasn't any jobs around. It almost was a running joke in the law faculty that, it was hard, how hard it was. And so at that point in time, I think a lot of kids didn't go on to do a career in law as is traditionally known as in solicitor or barrister roles. They went to other roles. And so I think a lot of them left the law early, and then some of them obviously have stayed, and, you bump into them in different law firms and things like that, which is pretty cool, like to see how they've come up and become really successful in the law and in their practices as senior judges and things like that. That's pretty amazing to see those people succeed in that area.
That's cool. Have you come against any in the contracts you've been negotiating with the other companies that you've had to?
Yes, but in a respectful way. Yeah.
Okay, you just meet at the end of the table. We'll sort this out. Yeah.
I think it's always nice when you have someone on the other side of the table. You might not always agree on everything. That's just not realistic. But you find your job is to find a way through. Yeah.
Now, we've been through Springfield City Group's journey and having a never-ending stream of politicians throwing themselves at you to be a part of what is an amazing city, an ever-growing, ever-emerging city. But who has been your favourite political guest to have in our city?
Yeah, there's actually been remarkable contributions by many people. So it is really hard to pick a person to say they were, the only one that has been transformative in their thinking. But probably to go back to the early days, that's when it was very difficult to see what on earth are these guys talking about, and should we give them a helping hand. Probably the ones that come to mind are Terry McEnroth, who, as one of his portfolios was in the planning area, and he did the South East Queensland Regional Plan, one of the very early, I think he started it actually, and then there was a time when he dropped in to the accompanying infrastructure planning, the rail line. And firstly, he really did give us a head start in terms of endorsing the city, helping us get legislative acknowledgement. Even when they lost government, he helped the next government, which was an LNP government, to give us the final legislation that was approved for Springfield. And this was at a time when there's no Centenary Highway, let alone anything else. So he had to really see the big picture to be able to give us that push along, and he did. So, yeah, obviously grateful for his ability to see the vision and to help us along. But there has been so many others as well.
There was I'm not sure if you remember this, but there was a time when Julia Gillard came, they did one of those, was it regional cabinet meeting or something?
That's right.
And I don't remember the actual venue, but we had this moment where we could go in and get a photo of you guys and Julia Gillard. And one of you tapped me on the shoulder and said, okay, you can go in now. And as I've gone in, like the federal police person is just like, grab me back. Like, what are you doing? And I damn near pooped myself thinking, okay, I'm just about to get flattened by, whatever, the federal police. But it was just a miscommunication. I just had to go around the other way. But I have loved over the years all the different prime ministers we've had, because that was a very fun era of about 14,000 of them coming in and out and being stabbed in the back and all the joyful things that happens in politics. But I feel for me in my career that that's been a real it was just having those experiences with those, quote unquote, famous Australian politicians just kind of leveled me out. I was like, oh, they're just normal people doing normal jobs. And, it has helped me meet other more famous people and not be flustered, because I'm like, it's cool. I've been tackled by a, Australian Federal Police member over Julia Gillard, so I can tackle anything. It's all good. So thank you for that opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. I think we've all learnt a bit along the journey, haven't we, about people and their drivers and the photos that they like and selfies and all sorts of things along the way. It's been a learning journey for all of us, I think.
I think, to be honest, they're just as excited to meet you. It's true. It is true. Now, I want to ask you about working with family. So you've got, your father created this business, with Bob Sharpless, and you have your siblings working in and at different times come in and out. How is it that you guys can communicate and run effectively while still having, the classic sibling, like, no, I know more than you, or you know more than me? Like, how do you guys control that in a corporate setting without just blowing up deluxe at each other all the time?
I think the way I look at it is that if I was in another company and there's other people there that I have to work with who are not my siblings, then you'd still have to find a way of having lunch with them, as well as dealing with them, as well as not agreeing with them on everything and the whole range of things. So that's how I really approach it. Like, we've got a job here to do. We all act professionally. We definitely don't always agree on stuff. That's just pretty much expected. And we have different views about things as well. So I don't think of it as family. I think of it as a job.
Okay.
And it's really easy to say that. And it's actually easier to do your job if you think like that.
Yep.
Rather than think, I've got to go and talk to my sister about something, that you've just got to talk to a colleague about something. So I think that's probably how I approach it. Yeah.
Okay. When I was in primary school, my father, at two of the schools I was at, was the principal at the school while I was in primary school. I kind of feel I had a target on my back.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
But also I had this weird safety bubble too. So it was, it was kind of like half of my body was on fire from, vandalism, and the other side was protected. So I just kind of got through safely somehow.
You've got to walk that path.
Yes. It can be daunting when people, I think, sometimes perceive that, things are going to happen in a certain way because you've got a family around you, or your dad being kind of the boss per se. Now that leads me to a question of, is your mother the boss? And then your dad?
100%. She might be small, she might be quiet, but she is a very, very, very smart lady. Yeah.
What's been your favourite? What's your favourite mum memory, given that yesterday was Mother's Day?
Oh, lots of things. But it was nice the other day. We were driving to the temple together, and she was talking about all the things that she made for us and skills that I don't have, like knitting. So, from knitting to sewing to craft to cakes to everything, that I would have thought it's pretty hard because when we came to Australia, we didn't have any money. So she had to find a way to get things done.
Yeah.
And she taught herself a lot of these things to be able to, make sure that we were clothed and had warm stuff, which in Malaysia you don't need warm stuff. You don't need jumpers. So she'd never knitted a jumper in Malaysia.
Yeah.
So when she came here, it was obviously really different and she had to teach herself a lot of skills that she didn't have. I just think, for that she's really amazing. It wasn't like you have the internet that you can look up how to cook curry and things that we take for granted now. They just didn't have. Couldn't ring your mum and go, so how did you cook that again? You couldn't do that.
Do you feel that time is what we have lost from the past in being able to sit down and do all those things? Like, if you wanted to, do you think you could sit down and learn to knit? Or is it the time that's the vacuum?
Well, I don't aspire to be able to knit. I'm sorry to say, I am sorry to say that, but I remember my niece coming home and she had to knit something for school. I was thinking, why are they teaching them to knit? Honestly, I was so angry about it. I just said, I'll do the knitting, you go and do something else. Because I just thought that was a way. She can buy a scarf for $5 at H&M. Why does she learn to knit?
They're preparing them for the apocalypse. Maybe, yeah.
There's other skills that we pay for that school to teach her. Yeah, it seems a bit rough, but I think if she really needed to learn to knit, that she'd figure it out on the internet.
Yeah, using the internet. Or going to talk to yoga, one of the two.
Exactly.
Now, back on solving issues and communication. You work in a corporate setting, so not every day is going to be rosy. You've got a number of staff, stakeholders, clients, customers, all those kind of things, can often be opposite magnets pushing together. What is the best way to communicate a tough situation to someone?
With authenticity. Yeah, I think people appreciate honesty and just being upfront and frank, and rather than skirting around the bush, just tell it straight. It's not necessarily easy to talk like that sometimes, but I think people would prefer that you did that rather than pretend or sugarcoat things.
Yeah, I think the days of the shit sandwich has kind of been pushed aside, and they're saying just go straight for the meat.
Yep.
Don't dance around
Tell it like it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are grown up enough to not necessarily appreciate something you're going to tell them that might be negative news, but to be appreciative of the fact that you were upfront with them.
I was at a conference the other day and the keynote speaker was talking about this subject, and they were suggesting that often the fear around the outcome of the conversation is what's the most threatening to the person who has to say it. So they were suggesting and putting that up front, like, I worry that this might change our relationship, but here's the really hard thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a bit of an icebreaker.
Yeah.
Is that something that you employ? Or
probably something I should employ in the future. Because it is really hard to give bad news. Like, no one enjoys it. And but it is unfortunately a reality of any sort of position that you're in, whether you're a parent or a manager of people.
It's tough. People communication is ridiculously challenging.
Yeah.
And I think these days with people seemingly in general have shorter fuses out and about, like you see more people blowing up on the road or people being rude in front of you at the shops or online and things like that. It's quite a challenging little space to
and different people react differently, and different generations behave differently. Like I was commenting the other day to my husband, why do we have to have signs in shops that tell people to be kind to the staff? It's quite ridiculous, really. Like, you shouldn't be allowed in the shop if you can't be, kind or just sensitive or just, I don't know, just behave well when you're in an environment that's a public environment.
I did hear that it is technically, now don't quote me on this one, someone else told me this, but it is legal to own a cattle prod, like the electric one. So maybe we can all carry those and just be like,
Oh, dear.
be rude, get
Well, just be kind, people.
You can put that on your office door. Like, my door's, it's an open door policy. Come in and chat at your peril. Now, speaking of cattle prodding, you love triathlons. How did you in the world get into the sport and become a triathlete?
Yeah, it's a very good question because I'm no athlete. I really am not.
I've seen it. I've seen you emerge from the water at breakneck speed. All the other athletes
Must
behind
have been
you,
someone else. Yeah.
and you're just striding. The water was like falling off you at breakneck pace. It was beautiful.
He's obviously talking about someone else, people. But look, as I said, I'm not an athlete, but I actually met Doug Fraser at USQ, and he was very keen to get students, staff, everyone involved in activities. And he started off doing the BRW Corporate Triathlon, which is a short course triathlon. It's almost, I would call it like a taster triathlon. So I started doing that. That was achievable because the distances are quite short. But I was never really a cyclist or definitely not a swimmer. And I think just by participating, you get a bit more confidence. And I was certainly spurred on by my trainer to just give things a go. Just give them a go and, give it your best.
Favourite try moment?
I don't think I have. Oh, maybe the half Ironman. I think getting over the finish line and that and thinking, wanted to do that, now it's done, tick.
So how much of those sporting fitness goals and ticking those goals off, how important has that been in shaping who you are and assisting in your daily life as in corporate world?
I think it's just, for me, it's exercise. It could be any goal or whatever at the end of the day. I think it's just actually having physical exercise also helps with your own mental health. And it's a great outlet for me to have the thinking time, to have the reason to get up in the morning and, and just be a little bit fit. So I enjoy it.
It's very impressive. Especially the half Ironman, that's a huge, not many people get out and do that. So well done.
Thank you.
Now, is golfing a passion of yours?
I used to play golf, but then I think triathlons took over.
You can't do both.
Yeah. Golf is very time consuming. I enjoyed it while I did it, but I was never good at it. I enjoyed triathlons because there's three things that you can do, that you're not just doing one sport, like golf is golf, but with triathlons you can do a bit of everything. And I think that variety is also pretty good for me, yeah.
Is it also a chance for you to kind of have 3 hours to yourself without anyone talking to you?
I do train with people sometimes, so I just think it's that having that physical activity and that outlet to be able to do something that you don't normally do and to challenge yourself as well.
Is there an event you haven't done that's kind of on your list of, I'd really love to achieve that sometime?
I'll keep looking for events to do because I think you always set yourself a goal by having an event to look forward to and to train towards.
I'll start sending you some overseas ones. We'll send you off every year. It'll be on your list. So you started the Diversity and Inclusion Committee here at the office. Tell me about that.
I think we started it probably in 2018. And to be honest, I was advised by another consultant that we had that, look, why don't you look at establishing this and you should run it? And I didn't know anything about this agenda. To be honest, I didn't know anything. But when we got our committee together, what I said is, let's figure it out together. And I would say that really every meeting we're figuring it out together because it's a very important agenda for corporates. It's something that we've navigated, but almost just because you have to, just because you have a circumstance that calls for it. But we've never had any systems or processes or policies to back it up. And I think we were growing as an organisation to a point where you should have some systems and policies that help you navigate it without also stitching you up and stitching the employees up. It shouldn't be, we're not big enough to worry about it being restrictive, but having them as guideposts to guide behaviour and corporate behaviour as well as staff. It's definitely been a learning journey, and it's helped us to grow as an organisation and understand some of the challenges that people face in the workplace.
And with that, how is navigating the mental health journey for employees and colleagues in, what over the last few years has been pretty trying times? How do you navigate that as an employer and as a company to ensure that your staff are supported, cherished and, looked after?
Yeah, I think it's really challenging, Aaron, for any organisation in this space, because we're not mental health experts, but we really want to make sure that our staff are in an environment where they can bring their best selves to work and get on with their job without the burden of negative mental health space. So all you can do is, again, provide the guideposts and hopefully a safe environment for them to raise issues that they may be concerned with. That's, I guess, where we've tried to be a bit more open, tried to have ongoing communication with people. We provide our staff with access to the Ford Health program. That all gives them some sort of disciplined way of assessing their health, but it also provides them with health education. So mental health education, education on topics that we feel are relevant to staff, say sleep, for example. In the past, you'd never think that companies would have to address some of these issues, but I think it's just becoming more apparent that people are looking for these types of information and education, and they don't necessarily have it in whatever space they're in. Yeah. So providing that help or offering the help is what we can do to assist them on their journey, whether it's physical or mental health, to help them understand what they can do to become more educated in this space to help themselves and perhaps also help others.
So on the sleep side of things, how do you yourself manage the busy work life, and we're constantly connected and able to be contacted? So I can see why, there's definitely times where I work too much and work too late, but that's mainly around putting the kids to bed, then trying to achieve what I need to achieve and then go to sleep later. But in a corporate environment, do you have any structures for yourself personally where you turn your phone off, or are you always contactable? Are you guilty of checking your phone as you're hopping into bed and going, oh, I could reply to that. Okay, I'll get up and do it.
I guess, I'm totally guilty of it. So I'm just going to fess up straight away. I also think it's my job to be, available all the time. And I've picked up the phone when I thought, should I pick it up? It's late at night and I should have picked it up. I'm glad that I picked it up.
Okay.
So there's not very many times that I would say I'm not going to pick it up, because I think it's part of my job. But I would say to people, do what you love. And then you don't mind working that extra 15 minutes or whatever it might be to get the job done. Because if you love what you're doing, whether it's looking after your kids or going to an event after work, if you love it, then the time's not going to matter. And if you can almost use that as a way to manage your lifestyle, then you'll be happier for it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. Obviously, as a freelancer, we're copping all sorts of out of time contact, but it's, sometimes, if you don't pick up the phone, not that my phone rings at midnight or anything, but if you don't pick up the phone, sometimes that client has moved on to the next, not that they're using the yellow pages, but they're just going through, seeing who's available. And if you don't pick up, it can be an absolute loss of a job. So it can be tricky, but the sleep, I'm hearing more and more and more, is just one of the massive factors in just mental health. Yeah, if you're getting good sleep, then you can really be on top of your self-care.
Yeah.
It's switching off.
Switching off.
So I'm going to try and call you one night and see if you're like, scream that one. See you later. Now, as Raynuha Sinnathamby, what is your most proud corporate moment, work moment?
Oh, that's really hard. Nothing comes to mind immediately.
Still working on that one.
Maybe it's still to be achieved, Aaron. Maybe it's still to be achieved.
All right. Well, now with where to from here, what does the next 10 years look like for Raynuha Sinnathamby?
Yeah, obviously Springfield is a huge part of my life and what we're doing here, and it's been pretty obvious the first 30 years has been about creating a residential address for people, building the city to be what people believe is a city and almost believing it into existence. I think the next 10 years we've got a very strong focus on job creation. We don't want to have to send people far to work. Obviously, people are going to leave Springfield to go for different jobs, but we would like to provide a very strong jobs ecosystem here in Springfield so that you can work 15 minutes from home, 5 minutes down the road, go back to pick your kids up, have lunch at home if you feel like it, have those opportunities at your doorstep. So we've got a really strong dedication to providing that jobs focus in Springfield. It's probably the hardest part of our project because you might be able to convince people to work here, but convincing companies to relocate here is a very different type of conversation.
Yeah. I've definitely, say when I work with agencies and companies from south of the border and they say, oh, where are you located? I 90% of the time still say Brisbane because I say Springfield. They're like, oh, where's that? So it is my chance to obviously educate them as well, to tell them where our great city is. But it still is unbeknownst to a lot of people. But in the same circumstance, a lot of those, outer cities of Sydney, like the Parramatta's and things, people don't realise that they're that close to Sydney, but also, their own little ecosystems. So I think we'll get there. But I think that is definitely what the community is calling for, is those bigger companies coming here. And anyone that I know will kick me if I don't ask you this, but why can't you get a Kmart here? I'm joking. I'm so joking.
Even I want the Kmart here. So, yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed, Aaron.
I was talking to Charisse Mullen about this and she's like, that's the number one question I get asked.
100%, yeah.
Could you imagine? There's more important things than a Kmart. Although Target's kind of selling.
The community want Kmart. Let's hope that Kmart are listening, Aaron.
I'll send it straight to their Facebook. Now, I have an interesting question in that you have two fabulous fellas, gentlemen, sometimes gentlemen, occasionally. It's a lie. They're not really gentlemen. But Ben and Sam came to you guys as young little videographers, and I thought it was such a bold move by you guys to have these young, unkept, dressed like little skater punks come and film your events. But I learnt very quickly that was a genius move because they were so good at what they do and so far removed from corporate culture that the videos and the content they produced and the messaging they were able to get out for you guys was so different. And it was very clever.
Yeah. So Narendran actually found Ben and Sam at a conference and said, we need you type thing. And he's got a great eye for talent. They definitely were 1,000% different than anyone I've ever employed.
Yes.
But we've all absolutely, love having them around, and I think it's a big lesson to everyone that you shouldn't judge people because how would we know what under what you called it, skater, t-shirt or whatever it is. Like, there's so much talent.
Yeah.
People all around us have so much talent in whatever they do. That absolute basic lesson that you learn as a kid, don't judge a book by its cover.
It's like their influence on me from not only just that, judging a book by its cover, to just that they're quite two genuinely really nice guys, but their work ethic for their age and what they're trying to achieve and the things they want to do, and not only just the work they produce, but I've taken great value out of my friendship with them, and that's again another really wonderful perk of having started my time with you guys all that time ago. So
their passion is infectious. Yeah.
Yes. I feel they're going to love me for putting that in. Hopefully they pay me too. That'd be amazing. Now, I have another little question for you. What is your driver? What gets you out of bed?
I just think that obviously Maha and Bob started this city. They had such an enormous vision, and it's a lot to do. And so if I can help even a little bit make that vision a reality, that's what we all want to do. I think that would be really important legacy that they've left behind, that we can add something to and leave our own little legacy within that behind. I think it's all of us here really are passionate about creating a city, and in a very earnest way working towards doing that. And everyone adds their own bit to that city. Whether it's Ben and Sam or Chairman and Bob, like, everyone adds their own little special twist. Because out there in our city, there's a whole lot of different people. So we have to do what we can to unlock all those little parts of the city and make it possible to achieve and do as much as we can in our lifetimes, because who knows when that number's up.
As I've aged, I turned 40 last week, so I'm...
Happy birthday,
Thank you very much. I'm determined that the best years are ahead. So I'm flipping the narrative and going, you know what, there's always like, getting older. And I'm determined that not only through wanting to watch my kids grow up, and I'm so fascinated to see where they go, but I'm really interested as to where I can take my career from here, and just enjoying the fruits of, the 40 years of quote unquote wisdom I've got under me. And just go, okay, roughly on average, I'm in the middle now, so let's make the next part amazing.
I totally agree with you, Aaron. I had lunch with Sister Angela Mary last week, and she turns 99 in August.
Holy moly.
And I said to her, what's your next project? Because why wouldn't you have another project when you're 99? And she's as sprightly as, 20-year-old.
Yeah.
So, keep living. There's a lot to do.
Why do you think there's that age barrier for some people? They stress about getting old, and what is it?
It's our own self-imposed limitation that we put on ourselves. So whether we think we're, too old to do that, or too, not smart enough to do that, it's all self-imposed barriers that we put on ourselves. So the more positive self-talk you can create in your mind, the less baggage that you'll have.
I like that. What do you do to give self-care for yourself? Are you a yoga-loving, upside down, hanging from ropes?
I don't like yoga because I find it too slow. So if I spend time on exercise, I want that. I want to get the heart rate up. I want to sweat. I want to, feel like you've exercised. And I think that also gives you really good for your mental health to be out running in the park or cycling outdoors. It's very, very good to be outdoors and enjoy the space, and it's good for your mental health. So why would it you spend some time doing that. And I'm not saying you have to do triathlons. You can go for a 20-minute walk, and I think anyone can do that. So, take advantage of the beautiful open spaces that we have.
The times that I've done yoga, I've really enjoyed it, but it's my flatulence that holds me back from continuing because I just don't want to interrupt everyone's session.
Oh, bring a laugh to the room, if nothing else, Aaron.
More than a laugh, I tell you that. All right, well, I'm going to draw it to an end there, and I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to have a chat. And honestly, so you guys were my first ever paying corporate client.
Wow.
And I'm so grateful for the journey that we've been on, and just to be involved. And obviously the messages and the speeches that I heard obviously soaked in because we built our house out here, and we've built our community within your community, and we love it. And we're very grateful for you having chosen to hire me back in the day. So that's
Thanks,
fabulous.
Aaron. We've absolutely enjoyed every part of the journey and the time and effort that we've all spent together, those very special moments. And I remember one of them was very significant, was when we pulled you out of the back room where you were locked in the pandemic period and said, "We've got a job for you." And you were so excited as well because everyone was working from home, and it was pretty dark days, wasn't it? So we've enjoyed the journey as much with you, Aaron. So thank you very much.
Yes, and actually, you've just reminded me, one of the more emotional moments for me I think, I like to think that even though, working as a freelancer, you're not working with people daily, but even if it's sparingly, you still kind of continue the conversation you had from the last time. But one of the things that kind of solidified, I guess, my love for you guys was that during when we had that storm out here and, the house was trashed and we had to move out, all that kind of stuff, is Nadine invited me for a coffee, and you guys had kind of collected money in the office, and you gave our family a voucher. And it was just one of those really beautiful, touching moments to go, as a freelancer, I am still supported and I still do have colleagues and community around me. And it was just a really touching moment. And, as a freelancer, you can often feel a little out in the wind.
Absolutely.
And that was just really beautiful. So Thank you for that. And hopefully I didn't just spend it on beer, which I'm sure it was. So.
Absolute pleasure. You deserve it.
Very good. All right. Well, we'll touch base again in another 1,000 years, and we'll see that our hovercrafting heads are floating around in drones over this wonderful
You'll be too
city.
big by then. You won't want to know me.
No, never too big.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right. Thanks,
Take
Raynuha.
care.